With respect, should not the Icelandic people as a whole realize that they had to take a huge hit because of the irresponsibility, frankly the collective irresponsibility of a small nation which believed it could become a massive player in international banking? Every single Icelander in the end, unfortunately, had to pay a price for that.
Yes, and there is not much fairness in it, because the ordinary people in Iceland are, of course, are guilty of nothing in this respect. But you are right, our leaders, both in politics, in banking, in businesses, they carry a huge responsibility for the things that happened in Iceland. And I am not trying to blame anyone else. We Icelanders must face it, that we carry the main responsibility ourselves. I was leader of the opposition in the years leading up to this and tried to warn and criticize, but there were very few of us, and unfortunately we were not much listened to.
Well, I want to hang on. I want to stop you there, because we'll get to we'll get to more of your own political thoughts about where Iceland's going in a minute. But let's just now focus on the immediate future and the European Union. You've said to me that you don't recognize the rules which the EFTA surveillance authority has imposed upon you when it comes to paying back the debt. You say you don't recognize those rules. In that context, how on earth can Iceland proceed with a European Union membership application when you're not even agreeing to be bound by the rules of the European economic space that you currently reside in?
Well, this is a disagreement about interpretation. And at the end of the day, we need the courts to sort that out. And that's probably going to happen. And that is not the first time in the world history that you disagree on interpretation of law or
no, but
regulations.
you must admit it comes at a very awkward time when Iceland is trying to convince the European Union that you want membership, because it seems to me if you actually dig a little bit deeper into the Icelandic psyche, you don't really want to be members of the European Union at all. It's just that 3 years ago you had a crisis, you wanted a bit of short-term protection, so you decided to appeal to the EU for membership. Now things are looking a bit better. It seems people like you personally and many of your countrymen have decided, you know what, there are a lot of very sticky rules about the European Union, we might be better off just abandoning the application.
Well, the question of membership has always been a very controversial issue, and is going to be so. And it has nothing to do with the Icesave case or exactly how we stand economically for the time being. It would always have been a very controversial case for Iceland negotiating with the EU because of our vital interests in fisheries and agriculture and other sectors. Now, question about following rules. I mean, once you know how they are, once you have a clear interpretation that is not disputed, no one is talking about anything else except following them. But there is a dispute here, there is a legal dispute here, and that needs to be sorted out. Because as I say, nowhere in this directive does it stand that there is a sovereign, there is a state guarantee behind the depositor guarantee system.
All right, well,
and I'm not sure that the European nations would like a court ruling stating that.
You've explained that, and you try to tell me that's simply a technical difference and that the European Union application presumably will go ahead. But let's just get down to the nitty-gritty. You personally think it would be a mistake, don't you? Even though your government supports application and membership, you personally, as a senior minister, the finance minister, think it would be a mistake to be in the EU.
Yes, I and my party, we don't think it will be overall beneficial for Iceland to join. That has been our view, our estimation. However, we realize that this question has to be solved. We need to get to the bottom of it. How will the future relations between Iceland and EU be? In what form? Is it going to be a similar form as we have today, the EEA agreement, where we are members of the inner market more or less, but not a full member? So we can have our fisheries and agriculture and other things
exactly.
managed in our way.
Let's go through the list of reasons.
Or is it going to be a full membership?
Let's go through the list of reasons why it seems to me many Icelanders are thinking that this idea of EU membership is frankly insane. Number one, you've explained how your economy picked up over the last 3 years in large part because of a massive devaluation of your currency. Well, you can't do that if, as you say, the government says it wants to go into the Eurozone. You can't do that anymore. You're talking about radical reform of your banking system. Well, if you're in the EU, you'd have to play by the EU's rules, so you couldn't do that on your own either. And then you get to fisheries. 200-mile fishing limit Iceland has, exclusive rights within that zone, a massively successful fishing industry. That would go too. So tell me exactly why anybody in your country thinks it would be good to be in the EU now.
Well, of course, we are closely integrated with our EEA agreement. As I said, we are part of the inner markets, and we pick up a lot of the European rules and regulations, as we have just discussed regarding the depositor guarantee systems. So we are integrated in many ways. The question is whether that is the way to go or to become a full member. Europe is, of course, by far our biggest market. About 70% of our exports goes to Europe. We are a European nation, so how we build up our contacts with Europe is an important issue that we need to have a clear view on.
Isn't the truth, Mr. Sigfusson, that you signed up to a government which officially wanted to join the European Union, not because you believed in it, just because you wanted a senior post in cabinet and you wanted your left-green coalition, your party, to be allowed into the coalition? It was pure politics. You don't believe in this at all.
We decided to put it to Parliament, whether there was a majority in Parliament to apply, and so it turned out to be, and then we said, then we will, as a government, be fully committed to that process. We will negotiate, and at the end of the day, it's up to the Icelandic people to decide. That's a democratic way to settle a question like that.
And the
so
polls,
we are in that process.
The polls, maybe I'm misreading them, but the polls seem to me to suggest at least 60% of Icelanders consistently over the last 2 years have said no, they don't want to be in the European Union. Am I missing something?
No, you are right. There's a strong opposition, and as I said in the very beginning of this discussion, this is a controversial case and was always bound to be so. And no doubt some of the recent events in Europe and in our contacts with Europe have not helped support for membership. I'm referring to the quarrels we had regarding ISEM. I'm referring to the problems that the euro is facing, and I think it will, at the end of the day, influence the debate in Iceland how successful the euro area is to solve its problem.
Yeah. Why is the mood in your country so sour when in many ways one could argue that you dodged a bullet? You had a total financial catastrophe, and yet, in part thanks to support from outside, your economy is recovering, living standards are beginning to recover, and yet the public mood is angry and sour. Why?
Well, that's a good question. Obviously, this was a tremendous shock to Iceland. We had been living we thought we were very rich, and the standard of living was going up, and we had a big party in Iceland after the millennium and up to 2008. So it was a big shock to Icelanders to wake up one morning and our Prime Minister at that time was on TV telling us that the country might become bankrupt. So it was a big change. And then a lot of people are hurt. I mean, a lot of innocent people that carry no responsibility here except go to work every morning, live in their house and try to deal with their mortgages are taking the pain.
You keep saying that these people bear no responsibility, they're all innocent. Is that then an indication that you believe that it's right to push ahead with legal proceedings against your former Prime Minister, who we had on this show a year or two ago, Geir Haarde, and indeed hundreds of other people, bankers, politicians, civil servants, who appear to be under investigation by your special prosecutor? Do you personally want to see individuals put behind bars, for example?
Well, that is being dealt with according to our law and our constitution, and that is the only way to sort things like that out. You have to stick to the law and juridical state.
No, I know, but I'm just asking a more philosophical point. Do you think it will be important to get rid of this sour mood, this anger in Reykjavik and Iceland? It will be important to see people punished and maybe imprisoned.
Well, justice has to be done. I don't look at it as a sacrifice or punishment to make people at ease with things. I think obviously we need to, as a society, work through this by getting these things behind us and start to focusing on the future. It will take time. It was a big psychological, political shock that hit Iceland. So as I analyze the situation today, our economy is definitely improving and recovering, and economically things are looking better and better. So the problem as it stands today is maybe only 25% economical, but 75% mental, psychological, political.
Well, interesting you say that. Let me just quote to you the words of Erika Bergman, a political scientist who's been looking at the work of the Truth Committee that you've had. You referred to it earlier. He says that what we've learned is that in Iceland we've had a mix of, quote, greed, incompetence, nepotism, nationalism, youthful risk-taking, and a kind of collective superiority complex. He says the truth is we in Iceland lost sight of our roots and our values. If that's true, can you recover them?
Well, yeah, unfortunately there's a lot of truth in that, and we have to, as I say, we as a people have to honestly face that we went off track, completely off track in many ways. And it's not just a question about the responsibility of the leading politicians, bankers and businessmen. We as a people also need to look this in the eye. That does not mean that the ordinary people are responsible or guilty for anything in that sense. But obviously many joined in, even the media, and the big parliamentary investigation explains this very well. How is this dealt with? Well, as I say, we have to follow the law and the rules, and those who are responsible have to shoulder that responsibility, not because we want to punish them as such specifically, but because that's how our law and constitution works. And then we as people need to join our forces. We have made a lot of progress. We have sacrificed, but now the outlook is improving. Yeah. So let's focus on the future. And Iceland has tremendous potential.
Well, we have to leave that thought hanging in the air. But Steingrímur Sigfússon in Reykjavik, thanks very much for being on Hard Talk.